Okay. So the duration is 2.5 hours. The marker location is 100 marks. Then let's quickly go to the instructions and the information. So when it comes to life orientation, it consists of section A, B, and C. So you must always bear in mind that section A and B are always compulsory. Then when it comes to the longer type of questions, which you find in section C, which are the essay type of questions, you'd only choose 2 questions. Then you are reminded to read all the questions carefully and number the answers according to the numbering system used in the examination question paper. Then obviously you are required to write neatly and legibly. So going to the first question, looking at the first question, section A, which is compulsory, question 1, the instruction reads, various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the correct answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number on the answer sheet provided. So the first question reads, which of the following is an example of nepotism? So let's look at the options which have been given them. So a typical example of nepotism is when a company hires only family members regardless of their qualifications. We would have someone who is in authority hiring only their family members regardless of whether they are qualified to do that particular job or not. So the correct answer in this case will be the letter B, which I would highlight using the green color. Moving to the next question, which reads, which of the following is an example of a physical stressor? So I would want to highlight the key word here. The key word is physical. So all of them might be stressors, but the question requires us to look for the physical stressor. So when it comes to the physical stressor, in this case, we are looking at chronic illness, which affects the body. So things which are physical have something to do with the body, with the physical body. So a chronic illness is a typical example of a physical stressor. So the correct answer here would be the letter C. Then 1.1.3, which factor most improves effective communication in a relationship? So when you are in a relationship, whether it's a family relationship or it can be friendship, what factor improves communication? So the factor which improves communication, it is to listen actively and also to listen respectfully. So you must consider what the other person is saying. So you do that by listening actively, with what we call active listening. And also you must do that in a very, very respectful manner. 1.1.4, which part of the Constitution protects South Africans against unfair discrimination? So where all forms of discrimination are covered in the part of the Constitution which is known as the Bill of Rights. So the Bill of Rights, it actually protects all South Africans against unfair discrimination, whether it's based on gender grounds, whether it's based on religious grounds, or even cultural grounds. So everything is catered for by the Bill of Rights. Moving on to 1.1.5, which type of media mostly helps foster unity in a country through coverage of national sporting events? So you'd find that national sporting events are usually covered on radio and television. We usually get sports adverts, so updates on radio and also on television. So they are mostly covered on radio and TV coverage. I think you can bear in mind that most households, they have at least access to radio or television. So that is the letter A. So this brings us to the end of the multiple choice questions, whereby I'll just do a quick rundown. Number 1.1, that will be your B. Then 1.1.2, that's C. Then 1.1.3, that's also C. Then 1.1.4, that's C as well. Then 1.1.5, that is A. Moving on to the next question, 1.2. So 1.2, we need to pay attention to the instruction. We need to pay attention to the instruction. What does the question require from us? So the question reads, Give one word or term for each of the following descriptions. Write only the word or term next to the question numbers. So we are supposed to write only the word or term. So I'll highlight this so that we can bear this in mind. So the first question reads, traditional sports or games that originate from a specific cultural group or community and are often associated with the history and customs and beliefs of that particular groups. So these are known as indigenous games because our keyword is traditional. Traditional, these are the games which have been done or which have been practiced by even the people who came before us, our ancestors. So such type of games are called indigenous games. So our correct answer would be indigenous games. Indigenous games. That is the term which we are looking for. Examples of indigenous games include stick fighting. It also includes diketo. It also includes games such as murabaraba. So those are examples of indigenous games. Then 1.1.2, the process of starting, organizing, and managing a business or a project with the aim of making a profit. So that whole process is known as entrepreneurship. That is known as entrepreneurship. That is the whole process of organizing and managing a business. So that is entrepreneurship. It's when you start your own business, then you set up the things which are needed to start that particular business with the aim of making profit, because the bottom line or the main aim is to make profit at the end of the year or at the end of each financial year. Then 1.2.1 refers to the next step that a person takes after finishing their formal education. This could include entering the workforce, pursuing further education, or embarking on a specific career path. So we are talking basically about our life after grade 12 or after matric. So usually this is known as the post-school destination. So there are various post-school destinations. You find that others might end up in training, others might end up in tertiary education, others might end up doing apprenticeship, and others might end up going into entrepreneurship or going into the workforce. That is known as the post-school destination, where you find yourself after the formal education or after grade 12 or any other stage which you'd ended. Then 1.3, answer the following questions by writing the answer next to the question numbers. 1.3.1 to 1.3.3 in the answer book. Write your answer in full sentences. So the question requires us to write our answers in full sentences. So state 2 possible contributing factors of unemployment. So the first factor is limited experience, workplace experience. Experience might disadvantage the youth during recruitment. So what we are saying here is that most of the youth, they lack workplace experience. Remember, most of them, they are fresh from high school. Some of them, they're even fresh from college. So they lack that workplace experience, which might disadvantage them during the recruitment processes. So most companies, usually when they put up advertisements for jobs, they indicate that they need a certain amount of years of experience. So limited workplace experience might disadvantage the youth during recruitment processes. Then in addition to that, we might also talk about slow economic growth. So youth unemployment might be affected by slow economic growth. So I'm going to write in green here, slow economic growth. Slow economic growth may result in fewer job openings or opportunities. In fewer job openings. Opportunities. Simply because the economy is not growing. It is actually not developing as it should. So this might result in youth unemployment. The economy is not producing new jobs. So at the end of the day, there are no new openings for the young. Then in addition to that, you might find that there might be lack of skills as well. Lack of skills and qualifications can also be contributing factors. Then we can also have a mismatch between education and the available jobs. There might be a mismatch between education and the available jobs. You'll find that perhaps there are certain job openings which are available. So let's say that there are engineering jobs which are available. But in the labor market, you find that most of the youth are trained to pursue other careers which are not related to engineering. So that mismatch may result in a rise in youth unemployment. Then the next question requires us to explain the term interpersonal conflict. So the question requires us to explain the term interpersonal conflict. So interpersonal conflict, it refers to the disagreement between two or more individuals. It refers to the disagreement between two or more individuals. So there should be two individuals or even more individuals for us to call it interpersonal conflict. So this should not be confused with intrapersonal conflict, where it involves an individual. So for interpersonal conflict, there should be two or more individuals. So it can be you and your friend, or it can be you and your parents, or it can be a teacher and a learner, or it can be a learner versus another learner. So that is what we call interpersonal conflict. Now, moving on to the next one, 1.3.3. Explain how following a consistent exercise routine could contribute to your mental well-being. So, regular exercise, it comes with quite a number of benefits. So, the first thing which we need to mention is the type of hormones which are released because of regular exercise. So we can say regular exercise results in the production of feel-good hormones called endorphins, which reduce stress. So if you are involved in quite a number of physical activities, you end up producing feel-good hormones, which are called endorphins, which reduce stress and which also maintain your emotional balance. They are also used to promote emotional balance or emotional relaxation. Then also, You can also indicate that a regular exercise, it promotes quality sleep. It actually improves the quality of sleep. Regular exercise improves the quality of your sleep. It actually improves the quality of sleep, which enhances mental alertness, mental focus, and alertness. So what we are trying to say here is that people who exercise regularly, they actually experience better quality of sleep, which actually enhances their mental focus and alertness throughout the day. So it is highly recommended that you must follow a consistent exercise routine in order to improve your health. So I'll just do a recap here. So it results in the production of few good hormones called endorphins, which reduce stress. Then in addition to that, it also improves the quality of sleep, which enhances mental focus and awareness. Now, on 1.4, we do have a case study which is there, which is basically about the causes of stress. So it reads, stress is actually a normal part of life. At times, it serves a useful purpose. Stress can motivate you to get that promotion at work or run the last mile of a marathon. But if you don't get a handle on your stress and it becomes long term, it can seriously interfere with your job, family, life, and health. More than half of Americans say that they fight with their friends and their loved ones because of stress. And more than 70% say they experience real physical and emotional symptoms from it. So it was adapted from the website listed before. Now, going straight to the question, 1.4.1. Explain how social pressures could affect a young, explain how social pressures could affect the young people's quality of life. So the first thing which we would want to discuss is mental health. Social pressures that is from friends and family, friends and family may result in constant worry, constant fear. They may result in constant fear, worry about meeting certain expectations. So social pressures from friends and family may result in constant fear, worry, and also worry about meeting certain expectations. For example, the family or friends might require you to perform exceptionally well in your metric exams, which might result in constant fear or which might result in constant worry. So as a result, this leads to depression, to chronic stress, and depression. So as a result, young people end up experiencing chronic stress, which eventually leads to depression. So that is how the quality of life is affected there. Then in addition to that, you can also say that peer pressure as an addition, peer pressure peer pressure often encourages risky behavior. Peer pressure often encourages risky behavior in the youth. But young people end up making decisions or engaging in activities detrimental for their health, activities which are not good for their health and well-being. So that is also another alternative answer for 1.4.1. So we have two alternative answers, 1.4.1. We have two different alternative answers there. Then 1.4.2, it actually reads, discuss one physical stressor that could affect a grade 12's academic well-being. So we want to look at a physical stressor. So by the way, when we handle such questions, we need to highlight the key term there. So the question is emphasizing that it needs a physical stressor. We know, or we have it in our mind, that there are different types of stressors, but the question is specific in this scenario that it requires a physical stressor. So there are various physical stressors which we can discuss. So we can talk about physical illnesses. Physical illnesses whereby you are suffering from a particular disease. Physical illnesses can affect learner school attendance, which may impact on his or her academic grades. So learners might miss school simply because they are not feeling well. So that is an example of a physical stressor. So this might also have an impact on their academic grades when they miss certain classes. This might actually affect their academic grades. Then also, let's talk about lack of exercise. Is also another physical stressor. Lack of exercise can lead to stress. Lack of exercise can lead to stress. It can also lead to poor blood circulation. It can lead to stress, and it can also lead to poor blood circulation, reducing energy levels and focus, thereby affecting academic performance. So lack of exercise is also another physical stressor. So in addition to that, you can also add things like poor nutrition, then also high levels of stress. They are also part of physical stressors, which might affect the academic performance of grade 12 learner. Now, moving on to the next question, which is question 2. And by the way, question 2 is a compulsory type of a question. So, section B is compulsory. Answer all questions in this section. Write your answers in full sentences. So I need also to emphasize this instruction. Answers should be written in full sentences, in full, meaningful sentences. So we do have an extract which appears there. Study the extract below and answer the questions that follow. So the extract reads, navigating the National Senior Matric Certificate Success Strategies for Students. If you're a matric student, you know exactly how important these examinations are for your future. To help you during this chaotic period, here are some of the success strategies you can follow. These strategies will help you prepare effectively for the NSC exams and increase your chances of getting a good pass. Number 1, begin your preparation right from the start. Then don't wait until the last minute. Start laying the groundwork from the beginning of your matric year. Listen carefully to the teacher and make sure that you understand everything, especially when they say this might be important for the exam. Write down key points in a class and review them later at home. Once the exam starts crawling in, take your notes, past formal assessments and homework material and start summarizing them. This will make it easier to study and remember all the necessary information. Master time management. Time management for students is essential, and even so during examination time. 3, set up study schedule and stick to it. Glossary. Spaced repetition is a method of studying where you review information at increasing intervals over time. Instead of cramming all at once, you review what you have learned after a few hours, then a day, then a few days later on, and so on. This helps you to remember the information for a longer time. So that is 2.1. That is the extract which you are supposed to go through. So define the term study schedule. All right. So study schedule, it refers to a 2.1. A study schedule is a tool It is a tool that outlines what to study, when to study, it is a tool which actually outlines what a learner has to study and when they have to study for that particular subject. And it also makes it easier, thereby making it easier to prioritize tasks. So here are the key issues here. So it is a tool that outlines what to study and when to study, thereby making it easier to prioritize tasks. So you can also say that it refers to a planned timetable. Some would refer to it as a planned study timetable. So it is a planned timetable for study sessions, allowing students to set aside dedicated time for each subject. So it has fair allocation of different times for different subjects. So basically, some would refer to it as a study schedule or as a study timetable. Then others would even call it as a structured plan that allocates specific time slots for studying and other academic tasks. So it makes it easier for a learner to prioritize different academic tasks. Then moving on to the next question, 2.2. Describe 2 habits during examination writing process that learners are likely to commit that could negatively affect the examination outcome. So this one, I would write it below. So some of the habits which learners engage in, which are likely to have a negative impact in their examination outcome. So I would start with the first habit, skipping questions. Skipping questions. Without proper planning. Skipping questions without proper planning may result in learners forgetting those questions. They might forget the questions which they skipped altogether, or forgetting to answer those questions. And running out of time. To complete those questions. Thereby losing marks. So there are some learners, as they are writing an examination, they skip certain questions. Then when they get to the end of the examination, they might forget that they've skipped questions in the middle. Then after forgetting, they would actually run out of time to refer back to those questions, and eventually they lose marks. So that is one that is one habit during the examination which might affect academic performance. Then, in addition to that, still on 2.2, we also have another challenge whereby rushing through questions, rushing through questions without following the action verbs, what the question requires. We call them action verbs or command words. Rushing through questions without following the action verbs or command words may result in the loss of marks. Okay, let me clarify this one. So we are saying that rushing through questions without following the action verbs or command words may result in the loss of marks. For example, there are certain questions which require you to list. So listing is simply writing something down. Then there are some questions which require you to examine. So when you examine, you look closely at something. There are some questions which require you to assess or even to evaluate. So some learners are simply rush through questions without following the action verbs, without even paying attention to the command words. Then we also have poor time management. Poor time management may result in failure to properly allocate allocate time for each section. Poor time management may result in failure to properly allocate time for each section. You find that a learner might be writing in English home language examination. They spend too much time focusing on the comprehension, yet there are 4 other questions which needs to be answered. So there must be proper time management so that you properly allocate time for each section so that you can complete all the sections which you are required to complete. So these are the responses for 2.2. Then so we have 2 different options there for 2.2. Now we need also to handle 2.3. Explain one social factor that could distract a grade 12 learner consistently adhering to their study schedule. So social factors, there are various social factors which I would outline on the whiteboard. So 2.3, it will be put on the whiteboard. Okay. So the first one, which we need to look at, is social gatherings. And social events. Social gatherings and social events may disrupt a learner's study social gatherings and social events may disrupt a learner's study schedule. So this, all right, continuous attendance of social events may result in loss. It may result in loss of study time, whereby someone continuously attends social gathering. So it can be result in the loss of study time, and it can also disrupt the rhythm. It can disrupt the study rhythm. So that is the first social factor which we can also include. Then, in addition to this, you can also talk about family responsibilities. Family responsibilities as well can be learners may be asked to take care of family members learners may be asked to take care of family members or other family obligations. Family obligations resulting in loss of study time and eventually poor grades. Poor academic performance. So we have social gatherings, we have family responsibilities. So these are the two key answers there. Then just to mention some in passing, you can also include things like romantic relationships. These ones, I'm not going to discuss them in full, simply because we have already provided sufficient responses, but we just mentioned them in passing. Then in addition to that, we also have extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities as well. They can also disrupt study schedules, extracurricular activities. Then lastly, for that particular question, we also have peer pressure, pressure from friends and associates. So all these are possible answers for question 2.3, which requires social factors that could distract a grade 12 learner from consistently adhering to their study schedule. Now, let's move back to the question paper itself and extract question 2.4. So question 2.4 requires us to discuss two benefits of space repetition as a study strategy. So what is needed here are two benefits. These are advantages of space repetition. So two benefits of space repetition as a study technique. That is what we need to discuss. So moving on to 2.4, which I will display on the whiteboard. 2.4, benefits of space repetition as a study strategy. Okay, so the first benefit which we are going to discuss that spaced repetition strengthens long-term long-term memory because information is recalled over longer intervals. What we are saying is that your memory becomes much more enhanced simply because information is recalled over long intervals. It's different from trying to cram at the last minute. So it helps embed information deeply into the brain. So it enhances information to be rewritten or to be deeply embedded in your brain. Then in addition to that, you can also say that it supports spaced repetition. Spaced repetition reduces examination. It reduces examination stress by building confidence through repeated exposure. Simply because you are continuously exposed to the information, so that eliminates examination stress. So spaced repetition reduces examination stress by building confidence through repeated exposure to content and concepts. So these are the two advantages of spaced repetition. So the first one is strengthens long-term memory because information is recalled over longer intervals. Then secondly, spaced repetition reduces examination stress by building confidence through repeated exposure to content and concepts. So when you are repeatedly exposed to concepts and content, you won't panic when you get into the examination, simply because you are constantly used to that kind of information. So that is 2.4. 2.5, how reviewing your responses after completing an exam could increase a learner's academic performance. So at times, when you are done with the examination, you need to review your responses. You need to have a second look at your responses. So the question requires us to explain how reviewing your responses after completing the exam could increase a learner's academic performance. So we are similarly going to discuss this on the whiteboard. So 2.5. We are going to talk about how reviewing your responses after completing the exam could increase a learner's academic performance. How reviewing your responses after completing the examination could increase academic performance. Okay, so the first thing is that it helps you reviewing, helps you identify and correct careless mistakes. So reviewing makes you identify and correct careless mistakes. Then it also encourages you to check. Reviewing encourages you to check for clarity and omissions, whether your answers are clear and omissions. You might notice that along the way, you might have omitted another answer. So reviewing may encourage you to check for clarity and also for omissions. Then it also encourages higher quality. It encourages candidates to pay attention to detail. To pay attention to detail. It encourages them to pay attention to detail, thereby producing high-quality answers. quality answers, which leads to more marks. Hence, higher grades, higher marks. So when you review your work, you can actually pay attention to detail and determine whether you've done justice to a particular question or not. So it actually encourages you to produce high quality answers, thereby boosting your academic performance. So that is 2.5. Moving back to the question paper, how reviewing your responses after with this we have found out, then assess two negative implications of not setting academic related goals. So two negative effects of not setting academic related goals. In each response, please indicate how this could affect a learner's prospects of achieving academic success. So we are talking about the impact of not setting clear academic goals. Okay, so this is 2.6. Okay, failure to set academic goals. Failure to set academic goals results in lack of direction. Failure to set academic goals results in lack of direction, which results in learners in which results in learners having confusion of what to focus on. During study time. So learners are all over, they don't really know what to focus on. So this is as a direct result of failure to set academic goals. So this results in lower grades, in lower academic grades. You can call them lower academic scores, and missed academic targets. So it is important for learners to set academic goals. They must set academic goals. All right, so the second implication which I'll discuss is that failure to set goals failure to set academic goals leads to low motivation, which reduces the zeal to learn. It results in low motivation, which results the zeal to learn, which also results in poor performance. Then the third factor, failure to set academic goals results in poor time management. It often results in doing things in the last minute, and committing several mistakes, hence poor results. So these are the three ways or the three negative implications of not setting academic-related goals. So it results in lack of direction. Learners would end up having confusion on what to do and what to focus on during study time. This results in lower academic scores and missed academic targets. Then failure to set academic goals leads to low motivation. The motivation to do work won't be there, which reduces the zeal to learn and which results in poor performance. It results in poor performance. Then, in addition to that, failure to set academic goals results in poor time management or poor time management skills. It often results in doing things in the last minute and committing several mistakes, hence poor results. So that is 2.6. So moving on with the questions, we are now moving on to question 3. So question 3 is mainly about the role of media in a democratic society in South Africa. So there is an extract which is required to be read. So it reads, despite significant roles, the media in South Africa often faces challenges such as media concentration, issues of bias and credibility, and threats to the safety of journalists. The digital revolution and the proliferation of fake news also pose serious challenges to the integrity of the media. To bolster the role of the media in promoting democracy, it is important to safeguard media freedom and to improve media literacy and promote diversity in media ownership and content. Media must continue to evolve in the face of technological developments, maintaining its commitment to uphold democratic values and adopt strategies to counter disinformation. Glossary, cyber savvy refers to the ability to understand and navigate and use technology, especially the internet, in a safe and responsible and effective way. So the first question requires a definition of the term social media footprint. So basically, it is the record of all interactions a user has on social media. This is a record of interactions a person has on social media. So it is a record of interaction which a person has on social media. So it can reflect a person's online reputation. It can reflect a person's online reputation. It can reflect a person's online reputation through likes, comments, and shares. So social media footprint refers to a record of interactions a person has on social media. It can actually reflect a person's online reputation through likes, what you like, the liking of posts, the likes of also the commenting, shares, and other things. So when you are on social media platforms, you are not as invisible as you might think, or you are not as anonymous as you might think. So there is what we call a social media footprint, which is basically a record of interactions a person has on social media, which reflects your online reputation, through your likes, comments, shares, and other things. Then 3.2, it requires us to describe two ways in which social media can be abused or misused. So social media can be abused. Social media can be abused through the following ways. Media can be abused through cyberbullying. It can be abused through cyberbullying. So that is number one, through cyberbullying, where people post hate. It can be where it is used to harass, offend, and harm. So that is the first way in which social media can actually be abused. So the second, they need another way. The second way in which social media can be used to spread for misinformation. It can be used for misinformation, sharing fake news, fake news and fake content. So these are the two ways in which social media can be abused or can be misused or abused. Then other methods can also include invasion of privacy, whereby people access people's information without their prior permission. Then we also have posting of offensive content, then online scams. Then we also have impersonation and other wrong things. So those are the several ways in which social media can be abused. Now, moving on to 3.3. Explain why being cyber savvy could help a social media to protect themselves against potential cyber attacks. So explain why being cyber savvy could help a social media user protect themselves against cyber attacks. So for this one, we are going to refer back to the whiteboard. That's where we are going to discuss this particular issue. So explain how being cyber safe can help a social media user protect themselves against potential cyber attacks. So that is 3.3. 3.3. All right. So we can say that a cyber savvy user a cyber savvy user understands how to set up a cyber user understands how to set up strong privacy settings which limit the amount of personal information available to malicious online parties. So someone who is cyber savvy, they know how to set up strong privacy settings, which limit the amount of personal information which they disclose to malicious online parties. Then also, cyber use, being cyber safe simply means a cyber savvy user all right, a cyber savvy user is aware of safe browsing strategies. A cyber savvy user is aware of safe browsing strategies, which ensures that they avoid clicking harmful links, downloading and save files, etc. etc. So when you're cyber savvy, you know what you browse through, such that you won't fall into them, or you won't fall victim to cyber criminals. Then people who are cyber savvy are also aware people also use strong passwords. They use strong passwords which cannot be breached. They use strong passwords which prevent hacking from cyber criminals. So all these are examples of how being cyber savvy would help a social media user. So you understand how to set up strong private settings which limit the amount of personal information which you divulge to malicious online parties. Then a cyber savvy user is also aware of safe browsing strategies, which ensures that they avoid clicking harmful links or downloading unsafe files. Cyber savvy people also use strong passwords, which prevents hacking from cyber criminals. So that is 3.3. Moving on to 3.4, 2 possible negative consequences experienced by a cyber victim. So when people, so the consequences they are referring to the effects. They are actually referring to the negative effects of being a cyber victim. So we need 2 negative consequences here, which I'll list immediately below. All right, so victims of cyber victims. Cyber victims may develop all right. Cyber victims may actually experience a sense of isolation, uh, as they feel unsafe online. Then secondly, we can also say that We can also say that they may develop a lack of trust They might develop a lack of trust in others, resulting in failure to form relationships, to initiate and sustain relationships. Then others might also become fearful, and others might withdraw from social activities. So all these are consequences, or these effects which can be experienced by a cyber victim, cyberbullying victim. Then 3.5, analyze two ways in how could being addicted to social media can affect grade 12 learners' performance. So for this one, we would write it below 3.5. Social media addiction reduces available time for study. Social media addiction reduces available time for study and for completion of tasks which might affect grades. You find that study time will be dedicated towards social media that can severely affect grades. Then also social media addiction leads to distractions during study, which affects grades as well, results in poor grades. Social media addiction also results in poor quality of sleep, in poor sleep quality of sleep, which affects memory, concentration span, and performance, and eventually performance. So all these are effects of social media addiction. Now moving on to 3.5 or 3.C6, which reads, suggest two ways in which a school could counteract cyberbullying. In each response, explain how these measures could help its prevalence. So this is 3.6. A school can run workshops, training or workshops on cyberbullying. A school can run a training or workshops on cyberbullying. This helps in cyberbullying awareness and avoidance. This helps in cyberbullying awareness and prevention. So this will help with cyberbullying awareness and prevention. So as a result, learners might avoid cyberbullying. As a result, learners might avoid cyberbullying. All right, in addition to this, we can also say that counseling services can be organized for victims of cyberbullying. Counseling services or programs might be organized for victims it might be organized for victims. Then also, victims can feel heard and validated. Can feel heard, can feel validated. So there should be social support services for victims of cyber bullying. Then also, other policies schools might also establish strong school policies against cyberbullying. Then also peer mentors can guide young students on responsible online behavior. Then the school can also set up a confidential system where by cyber bullying issues are reported online. So all those are strategies which a school setup can actually come up with to handle the issue of cyberbullying. All right, section C. All right, so let's first read the instruction for section C. Section C requires us to answer 2 questions in this section. Then your responses must in the form of paragraphs. Marks will only be allocated for responses written in full sentences. So it is very, very important for you to write full sentences in this particular section. So question 4 reads, study the extract below and answer the questions that follow. How information is accessible to different groups in society. Media reporting plays a crucial role in reflecting a democratic society by ensuring that information is accessible to different groups in society. In a democratic society, it is important for all citizens to have equal access to information in order to make informed decisions and participate in a democratic process. Firstly, media reporting can ensure accessibility to information, providing a wide range of perspectives and viewpoints. In a democratic society, it is important for media outlets to present a diverse range of opinions, voices, including those of marginalized and minority groups. This allows for a more inclusive and representative public discourse. It ensures that all citizens have access to a variety of viewpoints and information. Secondly, media reporting can ensure accessibility to information by utilizing various platforms, technologies to reach different groups in society. In today's digital age, media outlets have the ability to reach a wider audience through various channels, including traditional print and broadcast media, as well as online and social media platforms. This allows for information to reach different demographic groups, including those who may not have access to traditional forms of media. So that is adapted from the website listed there. Then the digital divide refers to the gap between individuals who have access to digital technologies such as the internet, mobile devices, and social media, and those who do not. This gap can be influenced by factors such as income, geography, and also education. All right, so what we are going to do, we are going to answer each bullet separately. So the first factor of the first bullet requires us to discuss the 4 factors preventing access to information. So the first factor which I would handle is the issue of affordability. So you find that in this digital age, there is high data costs and also high technology costs. So high technology costs, high data, and technology costs, high data and technology costs make it unaffordable access to information expensive. So that is the first factor. The issue or the first factor is that connecting to the internet is very, very expensive, especially in South Africa. Then in addition to that, buying a technological gadget, which can be in the form of a tablet, it can be an iPad, or it can be a laptop, or even a smartphone. It is very, very, those devices, they come at a high price. So that is the first factor. Then also, we also have the second issue or the second factor being the issue of language barriers. Language barriers. Information can be in the form of languages which people cannot understand. May be in foreign languages, which makes it difficult for those who don't speak those languages. So that is the second factor. Information can be in the form of foreign languages. For example, most of the news which you come across, it is actually presented in English language. So you find that there are some communities whereby there will be a language barrier, whereby those people, they cannot effectively communicate using English language. Then in addition to that, you can also say digital literacy, low levels of digital literacy. There are still some people who cannot operate digital devices well. So digital illiteracy. There are some people who still cannot operate computers, who cannot operate smartphones. So that is another factor. Then we also have things such as we also have limited availability of poor infrastructure, like lack of electricity. Infrastructure. For example, most sources of information, they need connectivity to network or even to electricity. So that might affect how people access that particular information. So those are the factors. So the first one is high data and technology costs. Then also we have language barriers, whereby information is available in foreign languages which people cannot understand. Then we also have digital literacy, lack of digital literacy, and poor infrastructure. Now going to the second bullet, which requires us to briefly critically discuss 2 ways of how the digital divide may affect people's life. All right, the digital divide can affect access to job opportunities. So the digital divide may affect access to job opportunities without digital tools. Job seekers might find it difficult to follow recruitment trends. Most jobs are being posted online, but you find that without access to digital tools, you cannot follow recruitment trends. They fail to get information on job alerts and to submit applications. Applications, thereby undermining their chances of getting employed. So that is the first factor. It affects employment opportunities. So that is the first challenge. Then in terms of education, the digital divide prevents many students from accessing learning resources, online learning, platforms. As a result, they fall behind on their studies. As a result, they fall behind on their studies. And perform poorly because they don't have access to online resources. Then, in addition to that, you can also say that it can also affect people from accessing good or quality health. That is another challenge, which the digital divide is. People might fail to access information which has something to do with their health and well-being. That is another challenge. Then moving on to strategies which in which media outlets may enable access to information for all communities. So some of the strategies, I'll list them on the whiteboard. That will be 3 points. That is the second bullet of question 4. Strategies to, that is question 3, question 4. Question 4, strategies to enable access to information. To enable information, or we can say to enable universal access to information for everyone. Access to information. So what can media houses do, or what can media companies do to make sure that each and every individual has access to information? All right, so media houses can translate information or news to or into languages which the locals can understand, which local people can understand. So the first thing is to translate information into languages which local people can understand. That will be the first step. So news and information needs to be translated. So people are more likely to understand news in their languages and they can easily relate to it, and they can relate and engage in the issues being reported. So they can actually participate and engage in the issues which are being engaged. So this results in more informed. This results in more informed. This results in more informed and knowledgeable communities. This results in more informed and more knowledgeable communities. So the first strategy is to translate information into languages which people can relate to and they can easily understand, so that they can also contribute into meaningful discussions or dialogues of whatever issues which are being reported. So that is the first method. Then media houses can establish free-to-air platforms. When you're talking about free-to-air platforms, we are talking about media platforms whereby the audience does not have to pay anything. They do not require, which do not require any form of subscription. E2, free-to-air platforms do not require any subscription. So this makes information available to low-income communities who cannot afford digital paid for platforms. So for those who cannot afford high data costs, there can be introduction of free-to-air platforms which can be accessed by anyone. So free-to-air. So the free-to-air is platforms can provide health, educational, and social information to communities who cannot afford commercial subscriptions. So this is a second strategy of how it can be done. So translating information to languages people can understand. Then also, in addition to that, they can also make sure that they establish free-to-air platforms. Okay, now question 5. Okay, we are going to study the extract, then we answer the questions that follow. So the extract reads, enhancing local government service delivery in the South African context. The role of local government in ensuring efficient and effective service delivery is more crucial than ever. They provide community services ranging from essential services such as water, electricity, housing, and much-needed infrastructure development through social welfare programs. One of the spin-offs of local government service delivery is to close the gap between the poor and the rich by ensuring that all households enjoy a decent quality of life. This requires effective policy planning, strategic planning, then also the allocation of resources, program implementation, and project execution to ensure effective service delivery, integrating responsiveness, accountability, collaboration, community engagement, and innovation within the framework of local governments. So the question reads, briefly state 4 possible practices within local government structures that may negatively affect service delivery to communities. So we are looking within the framework of local government. What might affect them the effective service delivery? So the first thing which I would want to talk about is poor communication. So most local government officials, they have poor communication strategies. So poor communication. So poor communication. Poor communication, where leaders fail to take where leaders fail to effectively communicate what they want to do with for the community, which results in misunderstanding. So poor communication by leaders. So communities fail to understand really. They fail to understand the needs. The communities fail to understand. Communities fail to understand what leaders need to achieve, intend to achieve. So if there is no open communication, it can result in failure too. So there's poor communication by leaders, and communities fail to understand what leaders intend to achieve, and also vice versa. Also, the community members do not, the leaders do not really know what the communities need. So that is point number 1. So the next thing is that lack of accountability. There is an issue of a problem of lack of accountability. Lack of accountability, which lack of accountability, where leaders fail to take accountable for their actions, resulting in poor service delivery. In poor service delivery. So lack of accountability is also another factor. Then in addition to lack of accountability, there's lack of transparency, whereby leaders simply spend money without giving clear records of how that money has been spent. Lack of transparency, preventing communities from knowing how much, preventing communities from knowing how decisions from knowing how decisions and budgets were made. Lack of transparency preventing communities from knowing how decisions and budgets were received. Then we also have things like ineffective planning. Ineffective planning when projects are done without proper planning, which results in the quality. Then we also have things like mismanagement, nepotism, etc. etc. So all those are possible practices within local government which might affect service delivery. So explain two examples of poor communication by local government representatives which may lead to conflicts when dealing with communities over lack of services. So we are going to discuss them. Poor communication by local government. So the first thing, local government officials might ignore governments might ignore or may ignore, local government may ignore local government may ignore local government may ignore community complaints, concerns and complaints. This creates anger and frustration. This creates anger and frustrations because people feel their voices are not being heard. This creates anger and frustration simply because people feel that their voices are not being heard. It also leads to a breakdown in trust. In a breakdown in trust. In trust between local government and communities. This results in protest. This results in violent protests. This results in violent protests and open conflict. So this would result in violent protest and open conflict. So in addition to that as well, we also need to write to discuss the second point, which I'll write on this whiteboard, which I've just opened here. So another issue is that the usage of unclear and confusing language by government officials. The usage of confusing language by government officials, it can result in miscommunication whereby the community does not fully understand the message. Does not understand the message. The message as a result, there will be unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations. Expectations. Which will not be met. Which will not be met and results in conflicts. So what we are saying is that government officials may use language which the local communities are not familiar with. So they can use unclear, confusing language. Most politicians have a tendency of doing that. So this might result in miscommunication, and the community would end up having unrealistic expectations. And when those expectations are not met, it may result in open conflict as well. Then also, we also have other points which we'll discuss in passing, not involving the community in decisions, whereby government takes unilateral decisions without consulting community members. Then failure to provide updates on the progress of certain projects. Then also speaking in a disrespectful or defensive state. All these are methods of communication. All these are instances where communication might go wrong, or examples of poor communication between government officials and community residents or community leaders. So the next part of the question requires us to look at two effects of vandalism on community infrastructure, which may impact on safe and healthy living in communities. So we are talking about the harmful effects of vandalism. All right. So there are various ways in which vandalism might affect the community's health. So we'll start with damage. When damage is inflicted on, when damage is inflicted on, when damage is inflicted on public sanitation facilities, such as public toilets, this may result in poor hygienic practices. This may result in poor hygienic practices, which exposes children and the elderly to communicable diseases. So as a result, the elderly and children, they are exposed to communicable diseases. So as a result, The community's health is compromised, as well as safe environments. So that's one way whereby people damage public sanitation facilities such as public toilets. So that can actually result in the spread of communicable diseases, waterborne diseases, diseases such as cholera and other forms of diseases. Then we also have theft of damage to electrical boxes, to electrical infrastructure, damage to electrical infrastructure can result in power cuts. It can result in power cuts which affect businesses, Yes, then in addition to that, you can also say that food can become spoiled, thereby endangering people's lives. All right. In addition to this, damaged infrastructure, electrical infrastructure, poses a risk, a health risk to the public. So if wires, electrical cables are damaged or they are lying around, it can actually compromise the health and the safety of individuals. In addition to that, we also have breaking of windows and doors in public buildings. For example, vandalism in clinics and schools or libraries disrupts essential community services. Damaged doors or windows leave buildings exposed to weather or even theft. This results in service delays and increased repair costs for the community. Then we also have the issue of graffiti and defacing public property. Spray painting or scratching public buildings creates untidy and neglected appearance. This gives the impression that the area is unsafe or uncared for. Such environments can encourage more vandalism or crime due to lack of order. This may result in the result is a community that feels insecure or disrespected. So all these are various effects of vandalism. Now, moving on to the next question. All right, the next question will be question 6. The next question will be question 6. So question 6 reads, study the extract below and answer the questions that follow. The negatives and the positives of change. The negatives and positives of change is inevitable. When you think of change having an impact on our mental health, we typically think about loss, the end of a relationship, and other similar endings. This can be difficult to accept, but sometimes even positive change can create stress, even when it's something we have looked forward to. So regardless of what type of change is taking place in your life, there are coping tips that you can utilize to cope and come up out the other end a stronger version of yourself. So state 4 negative changes that may affect a person's life. So some of them, negative changes which can affect a person's life, I'm going to list them below. So this one is going to be listed below. So physical health and decline. Physical health and decline affects daily functioning. Daily functioning of the body. So physical decline affects daily functioning. So that is one issue. Then emotional distress. Then in addition to emotional distress, poor lifestyle choices. Such as irregular sleep, unhealthy eating habits. Then we also have relationship breakdowns. Breakdowns such as divorces. Relationship breakdowns such as divorces. Then we also have things such as addictions and social isolation. So all these the negative changes that could affect a person's life. Now, the next question, discuss two ways in which transitioning to a healthier diet may increase. Discuss two ways in which transitioning to a healthier diet may improve your overall well-being. All right, so we need two ways in which improving or changing your diet can affect your overall well-being. So here is the first. So an improved diet increases energy levels. When you eat more fruits, when a person eats more fruits, eats more fruits, when a person eats more fruits, the body receives a steady supply of fuel. Of fuel it needs. The body receives a steady supply of fuel. So the body experiences the body experiences the body experiences less fatigue. The body experiences less fatigue. The mind feels more focused. The mind feels more focused. Then and consistent energy. Energy supports a more active and productive life. So they become much more productive and more energetic. All right. Then secondly, improved diet results in a stronger immune system Improved diet results in a stronger immune system. This provides as a result of adequate vitamins This is as a result of adequate vitamins. This is as a result of adequate vitamins. Then we can also say that the body will be able to fight infections the body will be able to fight infections and stay strong. So in addition to that, there's also a lower risk of chronic disease. Then there is also better digestion, clearer skin and better appearance, better mental health and other things. Now, moving to the next bullet, explain 2 ways in which taking your academic work seriously may improve your chances of success after leaving school. So I'm going to write it on the whiteboard. So when you, taking academics seriously can result in building a strong subject knowledge base. This is a strong foundation for the skills which you need in your career. So it will be a strong foundation for the skills which you need in your career or in higher education or training. All right. In addition to that, so it prepares you for future. This prepares you for future careers. So this prepares you for the careers of the future. Then secondly, it develops discipline and time management skills. So it also builds discipline and time management skills. All right. Serious academic commitments. Serious academic commitments means you can balance your priorities. It means you can balance your priorities well. These habits are essential for the workplace. These habits are essential workplace. The world of work, it needs people who can prioritize their tasks. Therefore, developing discipline through schoolwork improves your future work readiness. So these are some of the ways in which taking your academic work seriously may improve your chances of success in the near future. Then in addition to that, it increases chances of further education. Then it also boosts your confidence and motivation. It builds a positive academic and personal reputation. Then it encourages lifelong learning. So basically, this brings us to the end of this discussion for this particular paper.